Today is tax day. If you haven't submitted your taxes already because you're feeling a little bit panicked or out of your depth, please take my advice and get in touch with Molly Morris at M3 Virtual Accounting. Molly Morris will do a totally free consultation with you via video and discuss what it is that you need, what your concerns are, and she will determine whether or not she can do anything to help. Please go check this out if you need the help. I wish I had done it sooner. She has just been a real blessing for me. It's m3virtualaccounting.com for a free consultation with Molly. You will not regret it. Do it today.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2. The co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, everything else that you know already, probably by heart. We are covering A Feast for Crows, chapters 2 and 3. The Captain of the Guards and Cersei. First Cersei chapter, ladies and gentlemen. In these chapters, we go to Dorne for the first time and get to see what's going on down there. And then we see the aftermath of Tyrion's escape. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
All right, so RoShawn, you had said something about the chapter titles that you wanted to mention when we got started.
Just that I thought it was really funny that this chapter is called The Captain of the Guards, because we had talked about chapter titles and how the prologue and then the prophet, and I was just like, is this what I'm in for? Like, is one chapter going to be like the janitor, and then the very next chapter was Captain of the Guards?
A little bit janitory. Certainly more
like,
janitory than any other POV we've been in these
right?
books.
I was like, okay, we're just doing this now. It really is, because I was like, it's just going to be like random people that I don't know that happen to just be in the room when other shit is going down. That's one of the things I had mentioned, and we literally, that is what we get. So I was like, oh, all right. But I really enjoyed these. I enjoyed both chapters. I enjoyed the Cersei chapter much more than I think I was prepared to. And that is for a couple of different reasons. One, obviously, my familiarity with her from the show, and then also she's such a big part of the books that you and I had a conversation, because I had to get clarity on whether or not we ever even had a Cersei POV, because she's so present, but we're never actually in her POV. So once we talked about that, I was like, oh, well, I wonder what it's going to be like in her head. And y'all, it's a mess in there.
It is a messy mess.
But I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah. She's just she's got a lot going on, y'all. She's got a lot going on.
She's got a lot going on, and also not a lot going on, and she thinks she's got more going on, and
she is listening to her think about her father passing and the shock of that, and then how much like her father she is. I think there's a line she says at one point that she was really her father's only son, or her father's only true son, and I was wow. but like I understand why she thinks that, though. Like, I get it, but also, girl. And she just, you know what? She does not lack confidence.
Oh, sure doesn't. She's a Peggy Hill.
Fucking Peggy Hill. Oh my God, you guys. That character is such a whole. I am like this close to doing a King of the Hill podcast, by the way. I can't. But anyway, yeah, we'll talk about Peggy some other time. I could talk about Peggy forever. She is such fucking a wild character to me.
Yes, agree. But okay, so we have to start at the beginning, the captain of the guards. And we are with the Areo Hotah, who is the basically King's Guard to Oberyn's brother. Oh my god, what is his name?
Is it Doran?
Doran. Thank you. I always get that confused because it sounds so much like Dorne, which is just the name of their country, that I'm like, did I just say this guy's name was like Westeros? And then I'm like, no, right. That is kind of it. Doran Martell lives in Dorne. Feels a little bit too much, but you know, what are you going to do? And what we get is him being there when poor Doran keeps getting approached by one angry sand snake after another.
Yeah. So this, I had been like kind of low key excited about meeting the sand snakes because I remembered, and we talked about this a little bit, I think when Oberyn first shows up in the last book, but there had been so much excitement in the community for the introduction of these characters. And then I remember people being, deeply dissatisfied by what they ended up getting.
Yeah.
And of course I had no frame of reference, and I don't really remember everybody's specific critiques about what was wrong with the casting and the writing and all. I remember people just were not happy with like any of it, you know? Yeah. So reading these descriptions, what I do remember of the three ladies that played the sand snakes on the show, they were all very like similar looking in appearance, you know, and the descriptions we get in the book, all three of them are very different.
Yeah.
And I love there's a moment towards the end of his chapter where the King's Guard is like, they all have the same eyes. It doesn't matter what color they are. They all have the Red Viper's eyes.
Yeah, I really do enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well because, you know, we have these three women who are, they're all so different. And not just like the physicality, but just their approach, like how they each approach Doran and what their individual, like they all want the same thing, which is fucking vengeance because, you know, they're not here for what happened to their father. And they want the prince to, as much as I hate this expression, actually I won't say it. They want the prince to step up and go after those who murdered, in their words, their father. But they each have a different approach. And the first sister we meet is Obara. And this one
and
is
Obara in the show, she's like the one that is the closest to her book character because they made pretty much every sand snake in the show like Obara, very warlike, walking around in like leathers and skins with a weapon out at all times kind of attitude.
Yeah, yep. That's exactly what I remember. I remember too that the one that plays her, I remembered her from another TV show, and I was really surprised to see her there. I was like, oh, good for her. This is like going to be huge. And then it wasn't huge, and everybody hated them. And I remember distinctly feeling really bad for the actress because I had been so excited for her.
Aww, that's so sad.
She was on this like little known New Zealand supernatural sort of comedy called I forget what it was called, something Johnston's, but and I thought she was like really lovely on the show, and then she popped up on Game of Thrones, and I was like, oh, this is it, she's about to hit the big time. And then everybody was in unison like, nope.
Yeah, same. I was so disappointed.
But we meet her first, and we find out that the prince is gouty in a way that has got him really like immobilized. You know, he is in pain all the time. He can no longer walk. You know, he just sits in his little wheelchair and is considered by these women, at least, and probably more people. We find out also that most of the people of Dorne are unaware of just how advanced his ailment is at this point because it's been so long since he's been seen.
Mhm.
But there's definitely just an air of like weakness around him, and it's very clear that these three women think that he's weak, and like they all say it to his face
Yeah.
in one manner or the other. So we meet her first, and she is, like you said, she's the one that she's the eldest, she's the warrior one. There's a bit about the way she's rides her horses so hard they come back bloody from her spurs.
Yeah.
Like
I
she's
hate
just
this.
like aggressive for no reason. Like, what are you doing? Like, what did the horse do? And there's a line that says something like she's chasing something that she could never catch or whatever.
Yeah.
So she
I really
shows
do
up.
like that he hears like the footsteps and immediately knows who it is, because she has this way of walking that is just like, here I come,
Yeah.
And he's just okay, here comes
Long-legged,
Aurora.
hasty, and angry is how he describes the way she walks. Which, you know what, actually, I am not that mad about. I also like to consider myself to walk with long legs, hasty and angrily. That's also what I am going for. I find that it keeps the chit-chat with strangers to
I'm
a
more of
minimum.
a slow and sullen myself.
So she's here to demand action. She
Yes.
wants leave to basically, put an army together and go back and make King's Landing and the Lannisters especially pay for their crimes.
Yes.
And Doran has to say to each of them at one point, he wasn't murdered. It was trial by combat, and he lost.
Yes. And they're
And-
really not seeing that distinction at all. They're
No,
like, come
not
on,
at all.
dude.
They are not impressed by that by the semantics of the thing.
Mhm.
And then Doran is also, well, Tywin said we're going to get that mountain's head. He promised. And I'm just like, sir, I don't want to side with the sisters, but here I am siding with the sisters already, and I just got here. I need you to and then so there's a lot of like, he was your brother. Why don't you care more? And the thing about Doran is, so when we're introduced to this chapter, he is just like outside staring at these children playing in this pool.
Mhm.
And it's like all he wants to do, to the point where when she first demands to be seen, they tell her, no, this is staring at the children in the pool time. He can't be interrupted.
I forgot that's how it starts off. Yep.
And it really struck me because I was just like, oh, this is like serious. Like, this is in his calendar. Like, this block of time is like busy in his Outlook calendar. So no other meetings can be scheduled because this is like looking at the children playtime. And it comes up over and over again. And I don't know. I don't think that there's necessarily more to it, but I feel like there's something to it that I am not quite getting. I don't know if it is a longing for simpler times, or a longing for his own bodily health, or missing his siblings. I'm not sure what it is about the comfort that he seems to get from watching the children play. And like I said, it might not even be that deep, but I just thought it was just really interesting that it was included and so specifically spoken about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's something that will definitely like come up again, that he is hanging out, and there's a lot of description of the horseplay, as the adults used to call it in my time.
I am like, all right, if I'm being completely honest, there was a faint sort of skeeviness underpinning all of this for me.
Okay.
And I consciously said, there's no evidence of that. There's no reason for your brain to go there. This doesn't have to be predatory, creepy behavior, right?
Yeah.
So I tried to shut that down because, in this day and age, well, actually in any fucking day and age, there's, that so common that things end up being about being predatory.
Yeah.
And I had to make myself go, there's no evidence of that yet. Right now, he's just a sickly middle-aged man who feels comforted by watching children play, and that's all it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that's
We'll
all
see.
it is. Oh, I don't want to see.
I mean, you may want to see. It may be good. You don't know.
All right. It may be
the
good.
very fact that you said I don't want to see feels like, well, you haven't fully committed to getting that out of your head.
I really haven't fully committed. I'm trying. I'm really trying. So I love too when she shows up and she's told that he can't be disturbed, and she's just like, well, who's going to stop me? It was her whole energy. And the Kingsguard is thinking to himself, I would just absolutely wreck you, but I don't want to do that. Please don't make me do that. But she is just all like in his face, like clearly, I think he even says something like, she doesn't realize, that she cannot take me.
Yep. I really enjoy Areo Hotah as a perspective, because even though there's a lot of ways that you could go if you're going to make a character that's just sort of there for things happening around them, and you can make them somebody who is totally like uninvolved or uninvested. You could make them somebody who doesn't really fully understand the implications of things that are being said. And I enjoy him just as like being incredibly practical and focused, and he does his job, and his job is very simple, and he doesn't seem tired by it. He doesn't seem frustrated with the prince. There's just a sense of like, yeah, this is what I do, and I'm good at it, and I do it. And there's something very comforting about him for me.
There's a couple of moments where he referenced his childhood and being sort of delivered to these, he keeps calling them bearded priests. I'm not exactly sure if I'm supposed to understand like what sect or religion they belong to.
I don't think so, not yet.
But he was basically raised and trained to perform the function that he's doing. Like this is what his life is supposed to be. And I can't remember it exactly, but there's some sort of like vow that like he said, and part of it has to do with being simple, like this is not a complicated life. I made a vow to do like this one thing, and that's what I do. And that's it. That's all there is. Yep. There's also a moment where he shows a little bit of affection for the princess when her name is mentioned. And I thought that was really sweet too, because again, when you talk about having a fly on the wall for these types of chapters, it can really be written a bunch of different ways. And the way they have him, so like he's invested, right? Because he's been with this family for so long, he's invested and has relationships with them that seem important to him, but he also doesn't seem like he's inserting himself in a way that suggests that he doesn't understand his place. You know what I mean?
Yes, very much so. Yes.
Like I know
like, I'm gonna love you and care about what happens to you from over here.
Right. And I know sometimes that can be sort of like dismissive, like, oh, stay in your lane, know your place. And it's often said in a way to be dismissive and rude and talk down to somebody. However, there is value in knowing where you fit in the machine. There's value knowing like this is my place. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it just seems like when you say he doesn't seem to have like a lot of resentment, he doesn't. And it also seems to be rather fulfilled by what he does,
Yeah.
So yeah, even when he's talking about the sisters as they show up, there's like there could have really been an energy of, oh, here comes the other one.
Yeah, it's a grudging admiration, I would say. Just like, this fucking girl, she's always like this. I remember when she was a little girl and she used to, and it's like very much a indulgent uncle kind of energy.
It really is. It really is. Like, but it also does not get in the way of him doing his duties. Like he meant that shit when he said, this is child in the pool time. You can't come in here. He was not going to fucking let her in. She wasn't going to bully herself in. She definitely wasn't going to fucking beat his ass. But it wasn't like, I don't know exactly how to say it, but he was doing his job. He's doing his duty. He had no second thoughts about it. But it wasn't as if he enjoyed having this power to tell her no. You know, there was like there was no like titillation or like gleefulness about him telling her you can't come in here right now. It was more just like, hey, you can't come here right now.
I'm saying this for your safety because I don't want to have to hurt you. That's what I meant when I said practicality, really. It's just that everything feels extremely matter of fact with him. You know, and I as somebody who like gets frustrated sometimes when other people can't seem to like set their feelings aside, and I say this with full awareness that I also sometimes can't. I just always enjoy somebody who can sort of like just take a step back and be like, look, I have no actual like real feelings either way about this thing. It's just my job. This is what I'm meant to do. I'm being paid maybe to do it. And, you know, she's like basically trying to act like, well, ultimately you're going to answer to me. And I'm like, he's really not. He's going to ultimately answer to the Prince of fucking Dorne, ma'am. Yeah. Like, I get that you were legitimized and everything, but you're not a sand, like you're a sand snake. You're not a princess. Exactly.
Right. So, right. We have a moment where he meets I think it's the very last daughter. I don't know if it's Tyne or it's like Tyne,
I think. Yeah.
And there's a moment where she actually makes a move towards Doran, like raises her hand.
Like she's gonna hit him. Yeah.
And what's his name? Is it Hotah? Areo Hotah?
Areo Hotah, yeah.
Has to go and like snatch her arm out of the air. But it also wasn't, again, it was like, because that's my job. That's what I fucking do. Not because I'm like gonna like, I'm bigger than you and can overpower you and, you know, and throw you across the room or whatever. And you'll fucking take it because what are you going to do? It was just like, no, you raised your hand. You forgot yourself for a second. I'm here. Don't forget I'm here.
Yeah, I'm looking at this thing. She had left her spear outside. This is with Obara. For that, Areo Hotah gave thanks. Quick and strong as she was, the woman was no match for him, he knew. But she did not. And he had no wish to see her blood upon the pale pink marble.
Yeah. I also like it because what that means is that he has never had to show her or remind her in any way that she could not take him. Right?
Yeah, this indicates he has never had to like do this before, so
yeah,
they've got to have like a somewhat respectful relationship with each other.
Yeah, he's never been in a position where he had to show her that she can't take him. So he's never been like sicked on her or used as a weapon. I think is really where I'm going with this as well. You know, he's not like in the ways that, like we know with the King's Guard exists, you know, across the realms. And every, you know, Stannis doesn't really have one, but I'm sure he does, but they very rarely talk about it like that. But we know Dany has her Queen's Guard and Renly had his and, you know, whatever. And even though they're the main protectors, there's also sort of an element of them being like weapons that can be wielded, you know. And it just doesn't feel like Hotah has ever really been used in that way, you know? Yeah. Which is also a testament, I think, in some respects to Doran himself. That he is not just ordering this guy, oh, you know, go snatch that one and bring her here and, you know, go smack that one in the face and knock her down a peg or two. You know, doesn't seem like he has to do any of that. So, and what that means is now he has these women that show up in his space and talk to him any kind of way.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and like spoilers for the end of the chapter, but he winds up being like, you're going to have to round these women up. And Areo Hotah is like, oh, God.
I really don't want to. That's going to suck for me. This isn't
what I want to do with my, fine.
Yeah. So, also we find out, like, she's here, as we talked about, because, you know, her father has been killed, and she's the main. Does he even know? And we find out that he does know. He got a raven and waited hours and hours to even open it to read the news. And just how difficult that was for him. Like he knew what it was going to say when it showed up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't know yet, though, is that Tywin is dead. That news has not come from
yeah.
And then I'm glad we got the chapter we got next with Cersei, because I was curious, like, how much time has passed. You know, I wasn't sure how long it was going to go, you know, before, you know, we realized where we were timeline wise. So yeah, so she wants to raise an army and basically go sack them, and then he's just like, you know, I cannot. And then she calls him like a bunch of names, doubts that he even loved his brother. And
she's pretty hard on him.
She really is. He's like, Lord Tywin will give us the mountain's head, and she's like, who's gonna give us Tywin's head? I laughed so hard.
Questions that need answers.
I really fucking laughed at that. And then he starts talking about the children again in the pool. And then he finally tells her that he's going to sleep on her idea. Like, just give me some time. And I like the saying, too, that keeps coming back. Let me use the spear, which is just basically like a war cry that everybody ends up yelling at some point.
Yep.
So she finally goes, and they decide after she leaves, and they are the prince, his maester, and I don't know if anybody else is there. I don't know if I guess Hotah is there, but I don't know if he's really like part of the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But ultimately, it's decided that the prince is going to need to go to Sunspear. He is going to need to go show his face.
Yeah.
And nobody thinks this is a good idea, but everybody seems to understand it has to happen.
I hate situations like that. Where it's like nobody's got a better idea, but they all agree that like this isn't good, but also there's no other option. It's the worst situation to be in.
I love this moment too, because it comes up that if they go to Sunspear, they're also going to need to have like some time and audience with Myrcella.
Mm-hmm.
And this leads to a thought about her Kingsguard. And Hotah does not particularly care for this gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, you know, it's weird that they both have the same job. You know, they're both like guarding a princess. And he's like, our names are even kind of similar. But that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I am different from him. I am, you know, assigned to this task, and I serve the Prince of Dorne, whereas this man, this Ares, has come with his princess, but he serves the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Hotah felt a certain sadness whenever he saw the man in the long snowy cloak. The times the princess sent him down to Sunspear, one day he sensed the two of them would fight, and on that day Oakheart would die. Because Hotah is not really worried about how his success. It's like,
that's another thing that I enjoy about him. Yeah, there's no bravado about it. He's just like, yeah.
It's just like sort of inevitable. He's like, yeah, he's going to die. And he's going to die because I'm going to have to fucking crack his skull open with my long axe. And it's going to fucking suck. But like, what can you do? What can you do?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that kind of quiet confidence. That you know, I don't need to posture about it, but I do know that I will win. So
yeah, there's
he's
a
zaddy.
There's also a wonderful moment where Doran starts talking about his lost siblings and how he's the only one that is left, and he gets quite emotional about it. And Hotah is just like, I was trained to do a lot of things. You know, I swore the vows when I was 16. I was supposed to serve and obey and protect, and I do all that. Simple vows for simple men. But I don't know how to comfort a grieving prince. Like, that wasn't in the manual. Like, I'm just standing here, and I literally do not know what to say to this man. And he is still trying to figure out, like what to say, and I imagine that this pause is so long, it must be so awkward. And then finally, it only breaks because Doran is just like, "All right, that's enough of that. You can go now."
Yeah, I appreciate that. He sort of loses himself, and then he's like, "Oh," and he's just standing there. All right, well, let's wrap this up. So let's see. I'm trying to make sure that here it is. I have written to Lord Tywin, written, if you were half the man my father was, I am not your father. That I knew. And she talks about like how Oberyn came to get her from her mother. And she tried to say that Obara wasn't even his daughter. And he slapped her across the face and told her, the child, choose your weapon, and threw her a spear and then pointed at her crying mother. And was just like, you know, when she chooses the spear, he's like, see, what did I tell you? And I was like, she finishes this with, he left and my mother drank herself to death. And I was like, that's awful. You know, that's awful, right? Like, she says it in this way that's so contemptuous of her mother, and just and then she drank herself to death like a loser. And I was like, or she was horrifically traumatized by this shitty, apparently abusive man who stole her daughter from her, you know, or that. But
I mean, she literally says, you know, not only did her mother drink herself to death, but they say she was crying when she died.
Yep. Which is, again,
like,
just a like means of conveying more contempt.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I get why she's a little rough around the edges. It tracks.
Most definitely.
So then the next day they're supposed to get on the road to go to Sunspear at like first light. I love this so much. They get on the road at like 3:00 in the afternoon. And Hotah is like, yeah,
if that is the most relatable shit.
It honestly is. And Hodah's like, yeah, he said first thing in the morning, but I know he's going to dawdle.
Yes. Dawdle is his fucking middle name. It seems like, regarding everything.
I love that so much. It really just, because he doesn't want to do this. Guys, he has no interest in fucking doing this. Also, where he's going is not really conducive for what his physical state is. He's supposed to be going and staying in the tallest fucking tower in the fucking city. He can't walk.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing about this trip that's going to be pleasant for him. It's going to be painful. It's going to be humiliating. It's going to be uncomfortable. Like, none of it's going to be great. And so, yeah, the next morning he gets a slow start. And who could blame him? It was probably on Monday. So
this is me saying I'm going to get up and go for a run first thing in the morning, and I run at like 4:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
After
psyching
myself up endlessly.
But did you run though?
I mean, usually I do, but I wait till the last second when I say I'm going to do it, you know?
But at the end of the day, did you run though? Because if you did, then the fuck.
That's fair.
Doesn't matter what time.
That's fair.
And eventually he does, you know, get dumped in his little litter, and they do make this trip, which is, I'm assuming, not that far away. It says something like, you know, it's only 3 leagues, but it feels like this is just the longest trip ever.
Yeah.
And they're on the road, and who should pop out upon a dune trying to pretend like this is just a coincidence?
Oh my God.
Fancy meeting you here.
Come here often? No, I really don't.
Like, what are you doing? So this is the second sister named Nymeria. And we get a description of her, and her description is very different from the first sister's. She is quite pretty.
Yes.
In a way that the other sister was homely. I think they describe Obara's hair as being like rat brown, which is just rude. Just say it was brown.
Right.
Just
and
say
her
brown.
eyes are like set really close together.
Mm-hmm. like, okay, I guess. But this sister is very pretty, and we also find out that she comes from nobler blood, and
I'm
old
gonna read this because I just
Volantis.
really like this. Mounted on a golden sand steed with a mane like fine white silk. Even a horse, the Lady Nym looked graceful, dressed all in shimmering lilac robes and a great silk cape of cream and copper that lifted at every gust of wind and made her look as if she might take flight. Nymeria Sand was 25 and slender as a willow. Her straight black hair, worn in a long braid bound up with red gold wire, made a widow's peak above her dark eyes, just as her father's had. With her high cheekbones, full lips, and milk-pale skin, she had all the beauty that her elder sister lacked. And honestly, she sounds like a Disney princess, like
I mean, this would have been really
Jasmine
cool to see,
or something.
you know,
Yeah.
like it really would. This is a very good visual. This would have been cool to see on the screen. But they
instead
opted
we
not
got
to
bad
do that.
pussy.
Oh my god, that's right. Every time you remind me of that, my brain is like, oh my god, that's right, because I immediately forget it because it's just the worst.
We've been talking about it a lot in the Discord because we're all just like traumatized by the choices the show made in that regard.
So she shows up and asks if it's okay if she joins them the rest of the way to Sunspear. And it's all very civil, and she's walking along next to his litter, and she says to him, gout and grief. Oh no, he says to her, gout and grief make poor companions for the road. She's like, well, I can't do them with the gout, but I have my father had no use for grief. He was more interested in vengeance. And we realize, here we go again.
Here we go.
So she is also here for some vengeance, but she is not interested in burning the whole fucking town to the ground. She says, let me just go murder like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
I think that's completely reasonable, right? Like, let me.
We don't need to do a whole war.
No,
you could just do a little bit of sly murder,
like a little war, like a touch of war,
a guerrilla warfare
war.
kind of.
Sure, right? They're gonna
an appetizer of war, a soupçon of war.
No, I'm just thinking of like those endless appetizers, but
exactly.
For war.
I would like a plate with just a little bit of genocide, a little bit of killing women and children, maybe a drop of torture. Yeah, I just want to get a little taste of everything. I don't know what I'm going to like.
Yeah. Give me a little side of trafficking. I'll take a little to-go bag, war crimes. Something, to eat on the way home.
Yeah, just got to tide me over.
The next big war. But, so this is her plan. She just wants to, like, kind of go in with the third sister that we haven't met yet because she says that Obara is too loud. She's just going to go in there, make too much of a scene. That's not what I'm trying to do. We're going to slide in.
We've met Obara for, like, 5 minutes, and we're already like, yeah, she's too loud. You're right.
So she goes in and she's just like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get Cersei and Jaime, who she calls the Golden Twins, and they're going to be payment for Elia's children. We're going to get Tywin for Elia herself, and then we're going to get the baby, the little king, for my dad. Easy peasy. And fucking Prince Doran is like, but the boy has never wronged us. I don't see how that's the point.
Yeah, a lot of these people had not wronged them, and they're still dead, but whatever.
So
I'm starting to get all bloodthirsty.
See what a little talk of war will do.
It was an amuse-bouche, but now I want an entree. Full meal of war, please.
So she says, what? What did you say?
I said I want an entree, a full meal of war, please. I'm really surprised that you didn't hear me.
I think it was like I heard it, but it was
didn't
like
quite
a delay.
register.
It didn't really click until a moment or two after.
Got it.
But it was worth it. So and also this whole conversation has been like very light, even though they're talking about some really serious shit. Because then when he says the boy has never wronged us, she's just like, well, first of all, that boy is a bastard born of incest and treason, if Stannis can be believed. And it says the playful tone had vanished from her voice. And now Hotah is looking at her a little bit differently because like she's not playing around and he has to be on guard. And he says that, even though the other sister wore her whip on her hip, don't fuck around. Lady Nim is not any less dangerous.
Yeah.
She just kept her knives well hidden. And I really like that as well. Because there's sort of, as a reader, because she's described so differently and her approach to Doran is so different, you might start thinking to yourself, oh, well, this one is like not as serious as the other one. I don't have to take her that seriously. And this is where we learned, oh, no. You absolutely have to take her seriously. Don't be fucking tricked by the easy smile and the pretty face and the long flowy robes. Like, she will fucking kill you.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that as well.
That's kind of what, in terms of regretting the Sand Snakes on the show, that was the part that I really missed was, and then it's honestly, it fits so well now that I think about it with how much the writers and directors seem to misunderstand powerful female characters a lot of the time. But, these are not necessarily warlike women in the way that you think of warlike. They are dangerous, but they are subtle. And they have their ways of handling things that might have worked, actually. Like, who knows? And the show just wanted them to be these incredibly obvious, like, brawlers. All of them. In a way that is so... There's no nuance. There's no subtlety. And they even had them wearing clothing that made them seem like more... wild and feral,
Yeah, they were
like
just kind of very similar to. They were like Dothraki.
Exactly. And it's just so. It's just an insult to how like interesting and different each of their characters were, and getting to see women who are dangerous but not necessarily masculine dangerous in the way that we seem to only respect.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah,
it's like when you first meet them, you like your instinct and your like habit is to just assume based on her description that she's like an entirely different person than her sister, and therefore could never have the same sort of bloodlust, or sense of like righteousness about vengeance for her father's life. You just make a lot of assumptions once she's described, and it's almost like she is aware of that and is willing to play that until she needs to remind whoever she's speaking to that she actually is about that life.
Yes.
And that's when her tone changes. I just really, really love that transition into like being like, oh, okay, she is not fucking around, So this again, he has to say the whole thing about single combat. I don't. It's not murder. I need you guys to pay attention to the details of the thing. And then he adds this time, which he didn't say the first time, I fucking only sent him there to do like two things. Just fucking go there, give me an idea about this fucking king and his council. Let me know the strengths and the weaknesses. And if you can get any information about the murder of our sister, then yeah, go ahead and get that. That's it. Nobody told him to go over there, make it a big to-do and volunteering for single. Nobody told him to do all that. And when he says this to her, she is not like, she doesn't see a problem with any of this.
The Sand Snakes are really devoted to their father.
They absolutely are. He says he tells her that he wanted to wait he wanted justice for Elia, and he wouldn't wait. And this is when she jumps in, like, he waited fucking almost 20 years. What are you even talking about? And just so you know, we're not going to wait 20 years for ours. So just, you know, be ready for that. Mm-hmm. And then she runs off.
And I think that's fair. Like, 20 years is a long time. Mm-hmm. And to be like, oh, and he was so impatient. And I'm just like, Doran, may I remind you that it's 3:00 in the afternoon. And you said, first light. We leave at dawn. Yeah. I'm just saying, there's a pattern I'm seeing in you.
So they finally fucking get there, and it's a whole to do, because as they pull into the gates of the city, which isn't even a proper city, we find out a little bit later on, the people have been riled up, and
Indeed they
are out for blood. So they are like yelling at the convoy. They start throwing shit, you know, and they're all yelling that we should go to war, you know, to the spears. And they finally make it to, I don't want to call it a castle, but they make it to a tower, and we get to meet his daughter, Princess Ariane.
I think Ariane.
And and then we have a really sweet moment when she shows up, and Hotah is looking at her, because she is still a little thing, and it just seems he has such affection for her. Mm-hmm. I hope that doesn't go anywhere terrible. And like, I don't know anything really about this part of the story. I remember very little of anything that happens in Dorne. I remember the Sand Snakes kind of showing up in King's Landing, but like all this deep backstory of what happened in Dorne, I don't really remember. I just remember them showing up with not, it wouldn't be their mother, because they all had different mothers, but on the show they show up with his paramour, I guess, that Ilaria, yeah. So that's who they show up in King's Landing with as they're out for like blood. But all this back and forth about their plans and like and what Prince Doran thought about it and all that stuff, I don't really remember any of that.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like they just didn't even read this book.
So she shows up, and he wants
she's
to...
hot too. I want to mention.
Oh, did I give us a good description of her?
Her hair was a mane. So she strode to the litter on snakeskin sandals laced up to her thighs. Which word? Her hair was a mane of jet black ringlets that fell to the small of her back, and around her brow was a band of copper suns. Where the sand snakes were tall, Ariane took after her mother, who stood but 5'2". Yet beneath her jeweled girdle and loose layers of flowing purple silk and yellow samite, she had a woman's body, lush and roundly curved. So yeah, she's fine.
Like, fuck, I don't even remember if he had a daughter in the show.
I don't think so. No, I don't think they did anything with her at all, which was shocking to me, because there's just a lot that shocks me about the way they handled this book. It's fine. Whatever. We'll move on.
So, all right. So they get there, and the first thing he finds out is that there is another fucking sister that wants to talk to him. Like, he can't even get, like, settled in yet, you know. This has been a long ride. It has been very uncomfortable. He is so fucking sore. And she is waiting for him up in the throne room where he would be heading. So he can't even avoid her, because that's, like, where he was going.
Mm-hmm.
And they carry this poor man all the way up to the top of the fucking sun sphere, or Tower of the Sun. It's poor man. And there she is, the third sand snake. And then we get this one. Who's apparently got blonde hair and blue eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, she's also very pretty.
Can I read her description too? I just wanted to describe all of them. Okay. She was sitting cross-legged on a pillow beneath the raised dais where the high seats stood, but she rose as they entered, dressed in a clinging gown of pale blue samite with sleeves of Moorish lace that made her look as innocent as the maid herself. In one hand was a piece of embroidery she'd been working on, in the other a pair of golden needles. Her hair was gold as well, and her eyes were deep blue pools, and yet somehow they reminded the captain of her father's eyes, though Oberyn's had been black as night. All of Prince Oberyn's daughters have his viper eyes, Hotah realized suddenly. The color does not matter. Yeah, so she's just a real soft, sweet, gentle. She looked as sweet as summer strawberries.
Yep.
Almost an otherworldly innocence about her. But this bitch is crazy because she asks for his blessing and he has to like stop and think about it, and then after he touches her head, his maester comes rushing forward to check Doran's hands to see if there's anything on them or if there are any abrasions or cuts or pricks or anything, like she had booby trapped her scalp. Which they both are clearly genuinely concerned about this. And I cannot tell you how delighted this makes me. I have a lot of hair, and the idea of being able to use it as that kind of weapon has never entered my mind until I read this. And now the idea of just hiding like poison needles in my hair for combat or potentially somebody who's going to try and like come at me. Genius. Now I won't do it because I will forget and touch my own head and poison myself because I am a head scratcher and a curl twirler. But I just like this as a concept very much.
I love that. That she also. I'm pretty sure she's the one when Doran starts talking about how they're going to give us the mountain's head. Mm-hmm. She is like, yeah, no, that motherfucker got poisoned like 4 times by my father. He's dying. He's definitely dying. So that I sort of inferred from that coupled with the booby trapped head that she might be like about that poisoning people's life. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And which again is another like dangerous thing. We've learned through the book in this world, poison is often considered like the woman's weapon, as if that somehow makes it less dangerous, but whatever. But again, it's another like very dangerous woman who is not just dangerous because she has a weapon on her hip, and she can fight like grown dudes. So she's here, and she's also very, very sweet. And it doesn't even seem like she wants war.
No.
Or vengeance, right? And then he says, all right, well, Abara cries for war. Nim just wants murder. What about you? What do you want? And she says, oh, I want war. Don't. Yeah. No. War. I definitely want war, though. Just not my sister's war, but definitely a war.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh shit, they really are all 3 of them on the same fucking page. It's like these bitches, they're called what they're called for a reason. It's not just a cute nickname.
When she's talking about how they're going to set this up, it's mentioned that her dimples start to show because she's like smiling. Oh, God, I just love her so much. She just is so crazy sounding to me.
I love it when because she's talking about like when they come for us, we're gonna just chill, but they're gonna come down on us, and when they do, we're going to fuck all their shit up and bury them beneath the blowing sands, as we've done a million times before. And Doran is like, well, if they should come down, like, what are you talking about? Why would they come down? And he's like, oh, they'll definitely come down once they fucking see what we do. Yep. And you're like, oh, she has a plan.
And she does.
Her fucking plan. It's not a bad plan, y'all.
It's not. Mm-mm.
It's not a bad plan. She is going to, her plan is that they marry off Cersei's daughter to this Trystane.
Yeah,
is
Trystane.
I'm assuming a son of Dorne's.
I believe so, yeah. I'll just
right?
double check that, but yeah, I think
even
so.
though I feel like maybe it came up years ago when she's first sent, when Marcella's first sent to Dorne, we get an idea of like who is who and what's what. But I feel like we haven't really, like, he hasn't come up yet to me since then. But I'm assuming if he could be married to Marcella, that means he has to be like somebody pretty high up. So he's got to be like a prince, right? But marry them. My God, Tristan and Marcella are so innocent. I thought perhaps white gold with emeralds to match her eyes. Oh, diamonds and pearls would serve as well, so long as they're wed and crowned.
I just love this, that she's already got, like, she's got a plan down to what she wants them to wear. And
Absolutely,
that just makes me so happy.
And then Doran is just like, well, that she's not, because also part of the plan is once that happens, Marcella becomes the lawful heir to the throne. And
Yes.
Doran is like, that's not how that works. You know, they go, that's not how they do it in Westeros. And she's like, but here,
We're not
how we
in
do it
Westeros.
here. Exactly, right? And if I recall my treaties, and I do, one of the little rules was, while we're here on this land, our laws apply.
Yep.
And
Tristan is Doran's son. Yes.
Okay. And he tells her, like he tells the other ones, well, let me think about it. And she says, you think, she gets mad, and she's like, you think too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then she my God, he says there's a difference between being fearful and being cautious. And she says, oh, I must pray that I never see you frightened. You might forget to breathe. Which is just like such a fucking savage thing to say. Like, all the ways to call somebody a coward without like calling them a coward.
Yep.
She's like, if this is you fucking cautious, I can't imagine what the fuck you're like when you're actually afraid, because this is giving afraid of everything all the time.
Ugh, brutal.
And then she just says, oh, wait. She raises her hand. And this is when Hotah is just like, hey.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to back up, put that hand
Yeah,
down.
what do you think that was about? Because she tries to be like, what? Well, I would never. And I'm like, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it says, you know, you might, she says the insult, you might forget to breathe. She raised the hand, and then as soon as she raises her hand, the captain like makes the noise and checks her. I didn't think in that moment that she was actually going to do anything to harm him, like, or even smack him. So I was actually a little surprised that the captain is like, hey, put your fucking hand down.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I just misread it, because it's not written. It doesn't sound threatening, but it's also only 4 words. And, you know, she raised a hand, but it doesn't give me any information on what that hand was doing. Was something in it? Was there one of her needles in it? You know, was it open-handed? Yep. Was it like a fist? Like, I don't know. So it's hard for me to say, but whatever was going on, Captain was not here for it.
I'm going to tell you, like, this is not a spoiler. I don't know what she was like. This doesn't come back up. So
okay.
It's just left to interpretation. Like, do you think she was going to do something, or do you think she was just going to like touch her hair, or God knows what, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that they're so afraid to even, he doesn't want to lay his hand on her head makes me feel like she's going to do something, right?
So my take on it is very similar to that. Not so much that means she was going to do something, but just how that moment helps me understand that, again, these women are not to be fucking played with. Like, these are dangerous fucking women, to the point that just her raising her hand is not a risk that you want to fucking play around with and take.
Yes.
And I really like that. I really like just her presence, coupled with the whole blessing and being checked to make sure she didn't, you know, snag them in some kind of trap in her hair, is just like adding this layer to them of, yeah, they, you know, they seem like they might be kind of normal at first, but you don't want to underestimate them. You really need to be paying attention when you are in their presence, You need
Very
to
much.
make sure that your hand is really close to your weapon because they could wild out at any time. Like, you cannot give them an inch is what I'm getting from these these encounters. You cannot give them a fucking inch, which is why at the end of this chapter, it ends with Doran being like, you know what? I cannot give those bitches an inch. I'm going to need you to round them up. I need you to round them all up.
Yep.
And Hotah is like, even the babies? And Doran's like, you know what? Yes, even the babies. because even though they might not hurt me, they could be used against me. So you're going to want to round those motherfuckers up too. And I just love
the fact that fucking Oberyn has impregnated this many women. He has so many kids.
Oh my god, he's got
and
all
they're
these babies.
All women, apparently. Like,
that's
have we heard
amazing.
of a single son that he's ever had? They're all girls.
Oh, I didn't realize that was going to be maybe a thing. It's so early in meeting these characters for me. You know, I didn't know like who's all out there. Was that brought up at one point when he was in King's Landing? I think maybe somebody may have said something.
I feel like somebody said something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, but that's I love that he's just out here populating the world with these badass
and this is
women.
something that I really enjoy, especially because the whole, culture of Westeros, if there was a man who only ever had daughters, that would be considered like a real failure.
Oh, absolutely.
A shameful thing. And here's Oberyn having all daughters and being like, yeah, and they're fucking lunatic maniac warrior killers. So what is your point? Like,
and also that he makes
it
a point to go out and collect his daughters.
Yep.
Like if he finds out that there's just a suggestion that they're like with Oberyn, I think it's clear that that's, really his daughter. I think there's some mention of like the resemblance, but the mother was like, nah, she might not even be yours. I sleep with a whole bunch of men. And and apparently he was just like, if I have a daughter out there, she's mine and she comes home with me. I don't know what you're doing, but she comes home with me, which granted might not be fair to all the mothers out there. Clearly wasn't
it's certainly not
the eldest daughters. But when you think about the way in Westeros that bastards are just left to be, to their own devices a lot of times, they're just like left in the street. And in this other culture, and I'm assuming it's not just Oberyn. I feel like this might be a cultural thing, but I don't really have anything to base that on. I think I'm basing it because he doesn't get a lot of side eye by his actions.
Right.
So, and also we know that like, there's no, like the whole idea of bastards doesn't have the same sort of, what is the word I'm looking for? Stigma. Thank you. That it does in Westeros. Right.
Yeah.
But like you think of all the male characters that we have met that just have like Robert, just babies everywhere, just out there and could give a fuck about what happened to any of them. And then you think about Oberyn, who was like, oh, word? You saw a kid that looked like me? Where? Oh yeah, I fucked somebody in that house. Let me go see. And
I think it also is tied to the fact that women in Dorne have a lot more rights. They have many more rights and thus are seen more as whole people. So they're not going to be forgotten about because they have their role to play as well and can be made useful, frankly, in just a merely practical sense.
Right. I think too, like a lot of the bastards in Westeros so far, at least they haven't all been male, but there's been in my opinion, a real focus on the male heirs, the male bastards in Westeros. So I like also the contrast with not just the cultural differences, but that these are women and that they are valued despite being bastards, despite being women.
Yeah.
So she this is when does she leave here after they're like, you forgot
after
yourself?
She gets up and leaves. And then the maester comes and checks his hands. No, good. That is good. There are no scratches. So, oh my God. And then, this is when Doran says, how loyal are my guards? Loyal. All of them or some? They are good men, good Dornishmen. They will do as I command. I will bring the head of any man who would betray you. I don't want heads. I want obedience. Which, fair. And then,
it's pretty good.
You're going to have to round them up, even the babies. And all of Dorne will howl. I only pray Lord Tywin hears them in King's Landing so he might know what a loyal friend he has in Sunspear.
That's a really unfortunate last line. That's really unfortunate. Because you're doing all this to protect yourself from Tywin because you don't want him coming for you. Mm-hmm. And he is not even a factor anymore. So you're about to create a lot of problems for yourself in your home country with your own people in an attempt to appease someone who is dead on a toilet. It's just really unfortunate.
You didn't need to add the on the toilet.
Listen, we all know what happened. We all saw it.
All right, so that's the end of that chapter. Then we go into Cersei. And we start off in a dream sequence, which is very upsetting.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
This is really upsetting. This is a terrible dream. It opens fantastic. She is above everybody. I love this. High above them all.
Of course.
Right, of course. She is looking down on everyone. They're all kneeling before her. Young, beautiful knights are laying their swords down at her feet. And she's just reveling, right? This is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, her Tyrion shows up. She doesn't even fucking say his name.
Yeah.
I don't think she says his name the whole fucking chapter. He shows up and starts laughing at her. And she realizes, as everyone else starts to laugh, that she is completely naked. And so the dream really spirals very, very quickly. This is like the worst kind of anxiety dream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that she's naked, but also that she is now being cut by the throne. And
because she's like naked on a throne made of fucking swords. Mm-hmm. Not ideal. It's
just not ideal. No, not what anybody wants. Nobody wants to have it happen to them. Nobody wants to see it happen to somebody else. This is bad for everybody in the room, except maybe Tyrion. And, it's like slicing her up. And the more she's trying to get out, the worse it is. And she's just bleeding and sliced. And she's just sliced up. It's just bad.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while, her brother capered.
I fucking love that word.
I do too.
I'm just picturing him doing like somersaults and cartwheels.
I mean, that's really what it sounds like, right? He's down there just having a party. And finally, she wakes up, or someone wakes her up, and it's like her handmaid. And Cersei realizes that there are other people in the room.
Yeah.
And, she's waking up. She's kind of still groggy, coming up from this awful dream. And there are like all these people in her fucking room. And she's just like, what the fuck is going on? But she's telling herself, I can't show any fear. Like, I don't know what they're here for, but I can't let them know how upsetting this all is.
Mm-hmm.
And then she mistakes one of the men for Jaime, and it's not him. And that's just,
very disappointing for her.
Yeah. And so she finds out that the Lord Commander has summoned her. And she's looking at him, and she's like, his hair is curled like Jaime's, but his is black and oily. And Jaime's is golden, or hair like beaten gold. And she's looking at him, and it says he muttered something about a privy and a crossbow and said her father's name. The way this is written is really actually so good, because this was very much my experience when I was informed of the death of somebody that I really cared about. That sort of like, this person is telling me something, but it doesn't, these words don't go together. What's it talk, you know what I mean? So even though, and it's so funny too, because I had to read this more than once, because I was like, when did they tell her? I was waiting for like a moment of being like, your grace, your father is dead. Mm-hmm. But that never actually happens, because the way it happens, she's so confused.
Yeah.
While the information is being relayed to her. And at one point even thinks to herself, am I still dreaming? Like
Yeah.
this cannot be right. And this, my nightmare isn't over. And fucking, she does say Tyrion's name here. Tyrion will creep out from under the bed soon and begin to laugh at me. But then she realizes, no, this is not a dream. Her brother is still locked in the cell downstairs. What is going on here? What is all this? And
this whole thing is so it's so odd because of once it's all established and she understands what's going on, she's still like in denial, even looking at the scene in front of her face. And that's like,
she doesn't even fucking see Shay's body until somebody is like, and what about this?
Yep. And her response to that is, well, we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. We're just going to act like that's not a thing. Yeah. And if any of you says it was a thing, I will rip your tongue out of your face.
Yeah. And that's, meanwhile, it is also this realization that comes to her very slowly that she was one of the last people to get the news. Yeah. Like, she's standing around wondering where so-and-so is. And has anybody told Jamie? Oh, Jamie's already down that little shaft trying to figure out where it goes. Where's Pycelle? Oh, he was already here and left. And she's like slowly understanding that all these people have been here. They've already moved her father's body from the privy to the bed. Or did she have them do that? Maybe she had them do that. I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is she's one of the last people to know, which is a real blow to her ego.
Yeah. The ego is big in this section. Like her, just all of her thoughts about her father are how he couldn't have died this way because this is not how a Lannister died. That you don't. This isn't it. And the fact that they haven't, because you were right the second time. She's the one who gets them to move him out of the privy because she's like, hello, is anybody gonna fucking give him some dignity back, because that is what this man deserves. And there's a moment where she's thinking, let's see, here it is. This might be the work of Stannis Baratheon through some cat's paw. It could well be the prelude to another attack upon the city. She hoped it was. Let him come. I will smash him, just as father did, and this time he will die. Stannis did not frighten her, no more than Mace Tyrell did. No one frightened her. She was daughter of the Rock, a lion. There will be no more talk of forcing me to wed again. Casterly Rock was hers now, and all the power of House Lannister. No one would ever disregard her again. Even when Tommen had no further need of a regent, the Lady of Casterly Rock would remain a power in the land. So, as much as she's like, we gotta handle my dad and his reputation deserves better, there's also a big part of her that's relieved, and this is working in her favor. At least so she feels right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a long bit too where she starts thinking about how she can't trust people, and she starts talking about she wants to know where Jamie is and is he with the king, and that's when they tell her that he's not, but that Loras is, and she's just like,
yeah,
Loras, huh? You know,
she doesn't trust the Tyrells at all.
Yeah, that doesn't make me happy. I don't like that this brother is in the Kingsguard. I don't like that this sister is like going to be marrying my son, and she's like already been twice married, and she just does not trust them at all, and thinks that they have come in and insinuated themselves with the Lannisters, which they did, but the Lannisters needed them to do that. And she doesn't say it, but it has this feeling of like things are going to change now that I'm in power.
Yeah.
You know what? They have, she calls them up jumped, you know, like she looks at the Tyrells as being beneath the Lannisters, you know, they got a lot of nerve thinking they're as good as us, you know?
Yeah.
She says their vanity was exceeded only by their ambition, which is the literal thing you could say about the Lannisters and about Cersei herself, you know? But she doesn't really seem to see that.
Yeah, there's also delightful. The fact that she's telling herself how unafraid she is, and that nothing scares her, and every third thought is about whether Tyrion is hiding somewhere ready to kill her. I'm just like, ma'am, you definitely are scared of things. Shut up. Stop it.
Yeah. She's also has to continue to convince herself that Tyrion is still locked up in the cells until at the very end of the chapter when it's realized that he's not. So she keeps having these fears of Tyrion popping out of the walls, hiding under beds, and then being like, no, he's in the cell. And then also, even if he wasn't, he would have never had the courage to fucking actually kill their father. Like, he would never. So she sends some people downstairs to just kind of confirm that he is still in the jail. And it's that Blount guy, and she thinks to herself, my father should have never restored him. That man is craven. I'm going to, and again, this energy of just like, I'm putting that on my list of things to do now that I'm in charge. Even though she doesn't say it, I'm not, like, if she tells me next time we're in a POV that all of these people have been dismissed, I'll be like, yep.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find the spot exactly. Here it is. Guards and servants alike shrank back before her, mouths flapping. She saw their pink gums and waggling tongues, but their words made no more sense than the buzzing of the moth. What are they doing here? How did they know? By rights, they should have called her first. She was the Queen Regent. Had they forgotten that? And when she gives them an order at one point, she the command came easily to her. My father had steel in his voice too. And I'm just like, I really want to know. This is the same thing as Aaron Damphair. When he says his voice was so full of power, they didn't dare reply. Was it? Or did they just go, oh, brother, this fucking guy. Fine, go, we'll do whatever. Just get him out of here. I want to know, were the people in the room impressed by Cersei's order and her imperiousness? Or is that what she is telling herself? It's very unclear. But,
I love that she, right before this, she tells them, that they can't come in and out. She, it says, the outer castle was so hushed that she could have believed all its people were dead. And then she thinks they should be. It is not fitting for Tywin Lannister to die alone. Such a man deserves a retinue to attend his needs in hell. Which is like, okay, wait a minute.
Yep. There's a lot of back and forth happening.
Right? Like we're grieving for your father, but then you seem like you understand that he's definitely went to hell, which is not what you really think of when you lost someone. You don't go, oh, they need help in hell. Because that's how much I love them.
The thing that I'm sort of not certain about is is hell just the underworld? Greek hell where everybody goes there? It might be that, but it sounds in the moment like she's going, yeah, this badass. I mean, he's definitely burning, but he was very important and powerful, and that should be acknowledged.
Yeah, I don't really know enough about the Seven and what their thoughts of are what happens when you die. I know they have the whole Silent Sisters thing, and I think even one of the Seven Faces is like death itself, but I don't know. So yeah, but I absolutely read it with the sort of connotation that we use modernly when we're talking about somebody being in hell.
Yeah, same.
So she's also this fucking moth that's buzzing around. She is really not here for this moth's bullshit. And I don't know why that made me laugh so much, but it just really did.
Die. Just fly into the flame and get it fucking over with already. I felt her on that one. I don't relate to Cersei a lot, but that one I was just like, sing it, sister.
Yeah, we are definitely an anti-moth platform over here. So they climb up to the fucking tower, and this is when they had moved him back to his bed already.
Oh, they had. Okay, I could have sworn she told them to, but okay, yeah.
I thought they did too, but so her Uncle Kevin is there, and he is bereft. He's kneeling on the side of the bed, trying to pray over his brother's dead body, and it's just a scene. There's all kinds of guardsmen there. All three of the Kettleblacks are there. She's looking for Pycelle. He's already gone. There's a moment where she's thinking about looking at her father's dead body, and it's a mess. It's a real mess. and also he smells terrible, which, of Chloe. And she thinks, should I scream and tear my hair out? They say Catelyn Stark clawed her own face to ribbons, when the Freys killed her son. Is that what I should be doing, Father? Is that what you want from me? Or do you want me to be strong? And she had said earlier as they were walking up the stairs about how the smoke from the torches had irritated her eyes, but she didn't weep. Yeah. And that's what she says, I am the only true son he ever had. Yeah, she is all over the place.
Yep. Yeah, Cersei is like definition of unreliable narrator. You just never quite know. Was it the smoke, Cersei? Was it the smoke? Or was it that your daddy died? I mean, it's fine for you to cry because your daddy died, girl. It's all right. She's
definitely crying. That is some grade A self-delusion. That was not the smoke from the torches, ma'am. And she remembers about a story that she had heard about when her grandfather died. And
this is in relation to them finding the body.
No, not yet.
Shay, isn't it?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
This is because that story is about what Tywin did.
True.
But
yeah.
This is that her grandfather had died. He just got really fat, and his heart burst, she says, while he was climbing the steps to his mistress. And her father was off in King's Landing. And she thinks to herself, if he had wept when they brought him word his father died, he did it where no one could see. Because she's basically just talking about how no one ever saw her father grieve his own father.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's thinking about this, she's digging her nails into her palms. Even though she had just had a moment before where she's thinking about how Kat reacted and how that was kind of like beneath her to do all that. So she's digging her nails into her hand, which is a way to control your emotions sometimes, to keep you from like really losing your shit. Oh my gosh, this is when she starts looking for Pycelle, and she realizes that these people have come and gone. She's the last to know, and she tells some guys to go and find her a maester. Like, I don't care, just bring me back one. And so they bring back Qyburn, or Qyburn. I think it's Qyburn.
It's Qyburn, yeah.
And this guy.
Yeah.
This is the worst person to show up into Cersei's life at this moment where she is, the amount of power that she's about to have, and the way her brain works. This is no good. This is no good for anybody. But he shows up, and she doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't have a chain, and his qualifications are, well, I'm the one that like helped your brother. And she's just like, he says, I treated your brother's hand. And she goes, you mean his stump? So unnecessarily rude. And
he admits, he's like, yeah, well, I wasn't going to be able to just like save his hand, but I did keep him from dying, which almost happened.
He's like, yeah, you got me there. You're right. Mm-hmm. It's not a hand. It's a stump. And this is when she tells him to start getting the body ready for the Silent Sisters. And this is when somebody is just like, and what about the whore? And Cersei just loses all like grasp of reality in this moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a weird bit here.
Yeah, she is completely unable to wrap her head around the idea that her father would be in bed with a whore. It just flies in the face of everything she thinks she knows about her father, everything her father said he was. Then add to the fact that it's not just any old whore, it's Tyrion's girl, who Cersei had, basically bribed / influenced and give her a choice to make her testify. And somebody is like, tells her, oh, I'm sure your father was just like asking her some questions. Or whatever. Some really lame story. Some really, really unbelievable cover story. And she's like, yeah. That's what it was. Yes, that's what it was.
And then she imagines Tyrion, oh yeah, naked with her legs spread. That's how I liked to question her too.
And she is, we get a description of Shay and this chain that Cersei wants taken off of her neck, by the way. Which, yeah, you don't want anybody finding her body wearing that, do you?
Mm-hmm.
You do not. And this is where we get the story about what he did with his father's whore, who Tywin found wandering around Castle Rock wearing his dead mother's jewelry and gowns, and basically strips her naked and makes her spend a fortnight being paraded through the streets of Lannisport to confess to every man she met that she was a thief and a harlot. And that is what Cersei says is how Lord Tywin Lannister dealt with whores. And she has just a moment of like her brain just disconnects. It cannot accept this information for what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said earlier, her answer to this problem is we are all going to just pretend like she was never here.
Yep.
And there's no mention of all the other people that have been in and out of the room, by the way. Like, what are you doing about that? And them,
yeah, that's true.
But she tells the people who are left that, the Kettleblacks are going to take the body. She doesn't care what you do with it. Just get rid of it. Feed it to your fucking dogs. I don't care. But she was never here. And they all
And we also get a detail about how Cersei had made a deal with her. It's phrased as like promises that Cersei might have made. And that Shay tried to cash in, and Cersei was like, I'm not doing shit for you unless you tell me where Sansa is, because I know you know. Which we know. Mm-hmm. Of course, Shay does not know. But basically, she like betrayed Tyrion thinking she was going to get a payday, and then that did not happen because Cersei doesn't give a shit about keeping promises like that to people like Shay.
Yeah. That was and we knew as readers, right, that someone had clearly gotten to Shay, but we didn't know exactly who it was and what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So then finding out that it really was Cersei and that what she had promised her was, being married off to a knight, which was something that Tyrion had offered to do to her.
Yeah.
Her a couple times. So it makes me a little less sympathetic to Shay. Like, you could have got that deal from Tyrion.
I think that Shay was holding out for Tyrion himself. And she was like, why would I choose a knight when I can just bide my time and eventually you'll probably marry me anyway? And then she started to realize, he's in prison and accused of like killing the king. I probably should take that knight bit. Like my other prospect has evaporated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the way I see it. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. Like, if she really thought that she could get Tyrion to commit to marrying her. I feel like after he's married to Sansa, that should have been her clue that this was not going the way you wanted it to go.
One would fucking think.
Took his fucking offer, but so she sends some people downstairs to go look for fucking Tyrion, and he is not there. Jaime shows up finally, coming back up from the shaft, and it seems like it's going to be a moment of comfort, but it goes left very, very quickly.
Yeah.
She wants him to be hand, and he's like, be fucking for real. No. Like, I feel like that was really what he says to her.
Agree.
A hand without a hand, a bad jape, sister. Don't ask me to rule. And people in the room are just like, what y'all talking about over there?
Yeah, she's really embarrassed because he just said that shit right out loud.
Yeah. And she tries to recover. Rule. I didn't say shit about you ruling. I'm going to rule. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. And
then Jaime says something that I thought was really surprising in this moment. He says, I don't know who I pity more, Tommen or the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Which is a really fucked up thing to say to Cersei, even though he might be right. It's so fucked up to say it, and then to say it in a room full of people. Like, what do you expect her to do? You're really batting her up against the wall. Like, why? What are you doing? But so she slaps him in his face, which of course she does, because she does that a lot. He tries to catch it, but without the hand, it doesn't work the way it used to work. And
Sure
then
doesn't.
Uncle Kevin has had enough, and just has to reprimand them both by how poorly they're behaving in front of their dead father's body. Have some decency, he says, to Cersei and Jaime Lannister. Sir, I implore you to know who you are talking to. Have some decency. Where have you been? What are you saying out loud right now? What?
Oh, God.
Kevin has always been like a real source of amusement to me throughout these books. He really, I don't know what it is, but he just, his fucking, because he's low key like the most normal of all the Lannisters, but he's such in the background.
Yep.
And that sometimes it really does feel like, have you met your family? Yeah, I'm saying, like, really, have you met them now? For real?
Yeah, he strikes me as the kind of character that if we were ever in his head, he is so normal that he would never assign the motivations to people that they actually have, because his like
absolutely.
ambitions are so mild and sort of manageable that you know, she's planning to kill him. She's planning to kill him. She wouldn't do that. She can just sit down and talk to him, kind of thing. You know, like
exactly. Like, yeah. And it's especially funny because of his, his family birth. He is so, such proximity to so much power, and yet doesn't seem to be very ambitious himself. Which I guess to be real, if you grew up with a Tywin as your brother, he probably just sucked all the air out of the room, of every room he was in, and didn't leave anything for anybody else.
Definitely.
So maybe the way you adapt to that is just to really lower your expectations and your ambitions, and just be like, resign yourself that, okay, I'm always going to be in the background. I'm always going to be second fiddle. I have to make myself be okay with that. And then I can have a life that I enjoy. And it seems like that's something that, and Kevin, I think it was genuine. I don't have any reason to suspect it wasn't. It seemed as though Kevin sincerely really respected his brother and thought he was brilliant and powerful, and and followed him willingly. Like, yeah, Tywin knows what's up. I'm right lockstep with him. So it seems very sincere. But yeah, I think you're right. His POV would just be, it would be so wholesome.
It would.
While all of this like incredibly malicious shit is happening around him, his POV would just be like a real safe space to be. Until he I think it's like murdered.
The fact that he's named Kevin. We've got Tywin, we've got Cersei, we've got Tyrion, and then we just have Kevin.
And yeah, it's spelled with an A, but it doesn't help anything.
Nah,
it doesn't help anything. So this is when she starts talking about she immediately is like, I must have been crazy to think Jaime would be a hand. Like, that's nonsense. I'm not going to make the same mistakes that have been happening with these previous hands. So she's like, it's going to be Kevin. And she calls him tireless and prudent and unfailingly obedient. She could rely on him. Now, that's as her father did. And that I think is more of a question than she realizes. She's assuming that Kevin is going to have the same devotion to her that he had to Tywin, but she is not Tywin.
She
so
sure
I
isn't.
don't like.
Even though
I
she
don't
seems to
know.
kind of think she is.
She does. She really feels like she's like they were like cut from the very same cloth. The hand does not argue with the head, she says to herself. If I'm going to need new men, I'm going to need some new. You know what, girl? Same. I need new men. So she starts thinking about the people that are around her. And Pycelle is a lickspittle, and Jaime lost his courage, and Mace Tyrell and his cronies can't be trusted. So I'm going to have to get me a whole new fucking council. And I'm going to have to be careful because the whole city is full of the Tyrell's men. And this is when she starts thinking again about Marjorie getting married to Tommen, and how Loras is in the King's Guard, and how she's going to have to figure out a way to deal with them, but be very careful about it.
Yeah.
And then she thinks, I gotta ask Varys about this shit. And then it's like, where the fuck is that motherfucker at anyway?
Where is he at?
He is always right in the middle of some shit. If some shit is happening, he is right there. She says he is there without even you realizing he's there. You just turn around and that motherfucker is standing there.
That's
true.
So
she is just like, where is he? And she starts thinking, well, fuck. Everybody's here, but not Varys. He had to have been a part of this. He must have feared father, so he struck first. And then she starts telling herself, you know, how her father never had any love for the simpering master of whispers, and how Varys must have been so intimidated and afraid of Tywin and what he could do that he decided to get in league with Stannis, right? To take out Tywin. Like, she is doing a lot, y'all. She is doing a lot. And I'm just reading like, word? That's what you think? That's a jump. But to be fair, she doesn't know that Tyrion has escaped yet.
True.
So she's thinking of, you know, possible villains for the story, and she thinks of Lord Stannis, and she remembers how they were both on a council when Robert was king, and they've probably been in league this whole entire time. And she tells Trant to bring Varys, but like, don't hurt him.
Yeah.
And finally, there's a lot of people who have left now because she's giving them different things to do. You go check on Tyrion, you go after Maesters, you go get rid of Shay's body. And somebody comes up to the room, and right as she's thinking about how Tyrion is probably in the fucking walls, and they let her know that he's gone.
Yeah.
And that the guards were asleep. One is missing.
I do feel bad for these guards.
This is the last straw. She just is about to fucking go crazy. And she says, I hope you didn't wake them up. Let them sleep. And this motherfucker, what? I don't get it. What?
How long should I let them sleep?
What the fuck? What the fuck? This was the dumbest fucking thing. Like, what?
Oh, that shit cracked me up so bad.
I really almost closed the whole book. Luckily, it's only like a half a page left in the chapter, but I was overdone. I almost closed the whole fucking book. I may have not been like sympathetic to her throughout this chapter until this moment, where I was like, "Girl, you're gonna need all kinds of
competent fucking person here, please." How am I supposed to machinate without anybody even understanding my subtle allusions to murder? Jesus Christ! It's like none of you have ever performed a coup before.
So she said, you know, you're gonna kill all those guys, and she starts thinking again about how, you know, no one is gonna be safe. That Tyrion's in the wall. He killed father. He killed mother. He killed Joffrey, which he didn't. Well, he killed father. That part is true.
That's true.
But yeah. And then she says, we get a reference to that sort of. She just says the old woman in the tent.
Yeah.
Which is that Maggie the Frog prophecy, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody calls her. So she says, you know, he's going to come for me as well, just as the woman had told me. And she says, I saw my future in a drop of blood, my doom. And then her legs go weak. Because this has been a lot, actually. Like, all jokes aside, this is a lot. You get waking up from a horrible nightmare to news that your father has been murdered, who you have thought was this figure that was, like, untouchable. Like, in her imagination, in all of the kids' imagination, Tywin just looms so large above their lives, you know?
Yeah.
To, like, a figure that you both want to impress, but you also are completely afraid of, but you also resent, you know? And then, well, we are wrapping up. There was a lot of tone in that. That wasn't a regular like bark. That's
the old head. My neighbor, who I think like might foster elderly dogs because they all seem to be real old. And he
okay.
has this bark to him that is so mournful.
It was.
He just always sounds like he's been left on the corner and then somebody drove away from him. Like I don't know why. It's just very sad.
Poor thing.
I find it very upsetting.
As we laugh.
It's just so like melodramatic.
It really was though. Like really, I felt like normally I would not really say anything about the dogs barking in the background, but there was something about that just could not be ignored.
Exactly, and that's what he's trying to do. You fed right into it, RoShawn. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, every time. So she has been through a lot in these last 15, 20 minutes, and this news of Tyrion escaping and this fear that she has of him and this memory to this prophecy it just overwhelms her, and she kind of staggers, and someone tries to grab her to settle her, and she just is like, get away from me, don't fucking touch me. And someone offers her water, and she thinks to herself, it's blood I need, not water. I need Tyrion's blood. The torch is spun around her. She closed her eyes because she is, she's about to fucking pass out here.
Yeah.
And she closes her eyes, and she sees him grinning at her, and she thinks, I was almost rid of you. But his fingers had closed around her neck, and she could feel them beginning to tighten. Which, if I remember correctly from that last season, there's and I don't even think it's necessarily a spoiler. I think it's something that's known. It's just one of those things that I have trouble remembering where it's from exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that she dies being strangled, that is part of the prophecy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But Cersei always thinks that it's Tyrion who's going to do it.
Right.
And then I remember on that last season of the show, people thought they were going to get it, but it was going to be Jaime. And I can't remember if the idea that it's Tyrion, but it turns out to be Jaime, is book-based or just sort of like, what do you call it when like fans come up, with their own theories or whatever? Like
a fan theory?
So, yes, I don't know if... I meant something better. That's not what I meant. Shut up. But you know what I mean. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if it's from the book or if it's just something the fans came up with. But I remember everybody being really excited because there was a shot of her standing on the mat that's painted on the floor. Mm-hmm. And she's standing on the neck. And everybody was like, oh, this is it. This is how they're going to die. They're going to have Jaime strangle her while she's standing on that mat or something like that. But then the show just had them crumpled under a bunch of stones. We gave them
so much credit. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, y'all really did. Y'all really, really did.
My God. Yeah.
So
because they have the fucking prophecy thing in the show, right? Like,
I'm pretty sure they did.
And yet, the way that she and Jaime die together in the show, that prophecy was nothing. They didn't need to include it. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So I've always been sort of puzzled by like the, yet another decision that I'm like, why? You could have just not done the prophecy. I mean...
I feel like the prophecy was done really, really early in the show too. And then nothing.
Yeah.
For like the next several seasons. And then everybody got excited about that scene, even though there had never really been any more mention of the prophecy throughout the rest of the show. I feel like there was a flashback very early that showed her. I can't remember exactly the context, but I think it was done like a flashback. And there's like a young girl as a young Cersei and maybe a friend.
Yeah.
And they go into the tent. Yeah. And then if I remember correctly, which I very seldom do, that was it. It never came back up.
Exactly. Just, like, come on. It's just, it's fine. Okay, moving on.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
It's fine.
I also wanted to mention the fact that, like, when she first comes in and she's, how do they even get in there? He has guards. Somebody tells her about the fact that there are secret tunnels, and they tell her that her brother is checking them out. And she's like, you sent the one-handed guy
Right.
to go
down
up and
the
down
ladder.
the fucking ladders? Are you fucking for real?
Oh my God, that's right.
And a little bit later, when she's thinking about him, she's like, he'll come to me later for comfort. And I was just sort of like, you're not even thinking you're going to go to him. You're waiting for him to come to you, which is interesting. It's
right. And that's
always
before
him coming to her.
Yeah, and that's before the little spat, right? Where she
Yeah,
thinks
it's
about,
right when he
like,
gets, he hugs her after he gets out of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear how she thinks of Jamie, considering how much time we spent hearing Jamie think about her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it definitely feels like he loves her more than she loves him, or more than she's capable of loving him. Maybe that's not fair to say. He seems to be willing to act on it more and also sacrifice more, even though he's being completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know, he's always the one like, we'll do like the Targaryens did. Who's going to say anything about, us? We'll rule and they'll have to fucking like it or leave it. And she is always just like, are you high? In what world would any of that, be possible? But he spends so much time pining for her, when he's away from her. And I mean, it's only been one POV, so it's very early, but it doesn't seem like she does the same. Also, we know that she will take other lovers and he doesn't, which I think is a real indication about where they are in their relationship. So yeah, but even though she's like all over the place, I really enjoyed her POV. So I enjoyed both of these chapters. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun to be in her head in a lot of weird ways. She's compelling. Even though she's a mess.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that, like, being in her head is going to be a very different experience than so many of the other characters. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into this book. It has been, the first 4 have been very, very entertaining. I'm nervous because it occurred to me that we haven't had a Theon chapter in over a book. And I don't know if he makes it in this book, if he shows up in this book, or if he shows up in the next book, because you guys explained to me how there are going to be some people I don't see at all.
Right.
The fact that we already went to the Iron Islands, though, makes me think that there's a good chance that he will be in this book. But who can say? Because he's not really at the Iron Islands. So maybe he won't. I don't know. But I'm just going on record as saying I'm really not looking forward to. I don't know how much Reek is in the books. I don't know if the show overdid Reek or underdid Reek. I really have no idea. I don't want it, though. I really don't want it. Especially if I don't have the pleasure of at least, lusting after the actor portraying Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, Ramsay is not as hot in the book as he is in the show.
You know what I mean? And so without that buffer, I don't know if I can do it, y'all. They're just going to be rough. Plus, it's so much just... My gut says the show leaned into it, but it's so hard for me to tell, And if there are just chapters and chapters of that type of torture, that just is going to be really hard to read. So I don't know. I don't know how it's framed. I don't know if we get actual Reek chapters or if we just get a third person in the room who is just like aware of how he's been treated. And so everything is kind of third person, which would maybe make it a little bit more palatable. But from what the scenes that I remember on the show, it's just some really horrific shit that goes down. And I don't know about reading chapter after chapter of that. So I'm really, really hopeful that...
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and let you know, not with spoilers or anything. The show leaned into it.
Okay.
It's not something that we have to see. much of. That is not to say
thank God.
that his chapters aren't horrifying, because I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that it's not like relentless torture sessions where you're just watching this guy get dismembered or anything. It's not that.
Okay, good. That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was afraid of. So that's kind of reassuring.
And I think that they, in some ways for the show, had to do that because of keeping the actor, you know, if he doesn't appear for quite a while in the books, you can't just do that with the show with an actor who's contracted. You've got to find something for him to do. So I think that's part of why they included it in the show, is they just needed to keep him active as a character. But, you know, I think you probably, like, if you think about the way that George R.R. Martin has written about rape and murder and torture, it's really rare that we actually see it happen. We usually hear about it after the fact, or we hear about it from a different source, and it's still horrible. But he doesn't tend to write POVs of that kind of thing happening to a person.
Okay, good. I was really concerned because it was such a big part of the story in the show. And I just couldn't really imagine it not being in the book in some capacity, but I just could not figure out like how it would be handled. You know, I didn't know what I was in for. So that helps. That relieves a little bit of like stomach churning for me. So that's good.
That's like, I don't normally like to give you too much to expect, but I feel like this is something that's genuinely triggering and upsetting, and I don't want you to be dreading it, because it's not going to be what you think based on that. So,
okay.
Yeah. Again,
all right.
It's still terrible.
Well, there's no way it wasn't going to be terrible. That much I had resigned myself to.
But it all does have a very different vibe than the show had. The show did what they did.
They did do a thing, didn't they?
They did. So they made some real choices.
They made a choice, and then made another choice, and then said, fuck it, I'm going to make a third choice.
They made a third choice.
They made a third choice, and we were all like, can't wait till next season.
They really had us by the fucking neck.
They fucking really did, because a lot of us were not satisfied with a lot of it, and that shit did not matter, because my ass was watching every week without fail. And then getting on the fucking podcast to talk about it. So it's a little hypocritical to spend so much time talking about like what garbage a lot of it was, because it was effective. It did what it was supposed to do. Got my ass watching.
I guess.
I mean, that's literally all TV asks of you, is to watch it. Once you do that, you have completed your part of the deal. They don't owe you anything else.
You're so
I'm saying?
right.
Really. That's it. They said, we made some shit, you're going to watch it. And we watched it. Done. They win. It doesn't matter what the fuck we say about it when it's over.
Oh,
I'm just trying to keep it real.
My opinion's supposed to matter, RoShawn. Oh. Anyway. Okay. I'm going to say hi to new patrons next week. I don't think that I have any from this week. But I just really want to say thanks and hi to everybody who has pledged and become part of the like lives that we're doing as well. Miles and I covering the Sookie Stackhouse books has been really, really fun. I stand by that. If you want something that's fun and weird and lighthearted in its way, there are times where it can be kind of heavy, but mostly it's not. I really recommend these goofy, strange books, because their whole deal has been, I don't think I fully appreciated it the first time I read it, but with Miles and I covering it, she's really full of surprises, this writer, because she doesn't follow formulas that you expect. The tropes are there, and then she just does a whole different thing with it. And it's like, sometimes it doesn't really make a lot of sense that she did that thing, but it keeps you guessing. It certainly keeps you on your toes, so I can't even be that mad about it. It's just strange. But anyway, yeah, go and listen to those audiobooks, and then listen to me and Miles talk about those books, because it's a good time. Miles is just my go-to vampire guy now. It's really weird.
He really is. I love
Mhm.
this lane that has been carved out for him.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to more vampire content. I don't know where you're going to get. You guys should do some Anne Rice next.
We're gonna be covering did I tell you this? That we're gonna do the True Blood TV show, but we're gonna do it like several episodes at a time.
Oh,
after we finish the books.
I knew you were floating the idea, but I didn't know you guys had decided to do it. That's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, because that show is wacky. It
really is.
Oh my god, I'm in a True Blood fan group, and let me tell you, people. This show had ended how long ago, and that is one of the most active groups I'm in.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
That show, when that show decided to go for a thing, it just fucking went for it. It did not care. It did not care. It was like not self-conscious at all.
No.
They were just like, Mike, I don't want to spoil people who haven't seen it, but like towards those later seasons, there are some things that happen. There are some people that show up. There are some actors that you would never in your life. If someone had said to me, I will bet you $1 million that this person from this show shows up on next season, I would have fucking lost $1 million because I'd have been like, absolutely the fuck not.
Yep.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then the season started, and look who was there. And you could have fucking knocked me over. Girl, and I know you know who I'm talking about. So,
oh yeah.
It's like the show was like, you know what? Fuck it. Why not?
Fuck it is genuinely the energy.
And it was a very different time for TV when this was on too. Like It wasn't, I don't want to say it's competitive, but like, you know how they're like HBO and all Netflix, they're like slashing shows willy-nilly and like, budget this and, ratings that. Da, da, da. Like HBO just said to True Blood, y'all go ahead and do what you do. It's good. We got it. We got like a couple of solid shows that are doing all right. You know what I mean? Go ahead. Oh, Word's doing that this season? That's fine. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what, kiddos, the last seasons of that show are some of the most unhinged shit you've ever seen. Like, I can't wait. I'm really excited about talking about this with because Miles has been reacting strongly to some of the choices she has made in the book, and I'm just like, you're not ready. You're not ready. He's not ready.
Oh my god, I can't wait because I am so down for a rewatch because that show is fucking banana pancakes. It just there's not many shows that I will put up in the tier with just bonkers off the wall going for shit just for the fuck of going for it. Than some of those last seasons of True Blood. They completely unhinged.
I really also enjoy, and I didn't notice it until watching it with Owen, but that show has some of the most unforgivable needle drops at the end of the episode. Have you noticed that? The fact that they oh my God, RoShawn, the songs they pick, they're so on the nose that it's like, this is a joke I'd make on the show. This isn't, you don't actually use this song because that's too much. And some of them are like covers of a particular song. And it's like they fucking went and found the worst version of the cover they could find.
I can't claim that I noticed that all the time, but I will admit to anytime they went to the fucking club, the music that was playing, I'd be like, really, y'all? Really? I do remember that. I remember a couple times being like, all right, y'all got to stop playing. Y'all play too much.
Yeah, it is. So that's something I'm going to focus on is like when we wrap up an episode, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm playing us out this episode because it became like a running joke with me and Owen who could get the remote in time to turn it off before the fucking outro music would start playing. Because it's a different end credit song every episode, you guys. And every time it's so ridiculous. So
and
we were just like, I don't want to hear it.
Bummer about that. The bummer is that the theme song.
The theme song is a banger. Yup.
Right? So you really, it sets up this expectation. It's a great song. And it sets up an expectation the show's soundtrack is just really going to hit. And it does not.
It sure doesn't.
Yeah, it's super disappointing.
You know what? Just real quick. I just went and found I do have 2 new patrons, so I'm gonna do it. We spent 10 minutes talking about True Blood. We can talk about patrons. Yes, we can. Welcome to Evan Greeley and Kirsten Chetwin.
Yay! Welcome.
God, I love this thing so much, you guys. I'm so glad I bought this button. But yeah, thank you so much to Evan and Kirsten. Appreciate you both so much. And I hope that y'all are enjoying your content. And one of you signed up in the level that you're going to be getting a postcard. So that'll be fun.
Postcards are the best.
Yeah, I'm sending out. We finally got they were so behind. I got to start ordering a lot earlier in the month, I think, because they've just been very slow in arriving. But I got to design the postcard for this month coming up. And I know I made a point about writing down the potato one, which is this month's postcard, but there was something else that you said, and I'm really hoping I wrote it down. I got to look in my notes because oh my God, that's what it is. You were talking about Song of Ice and Fire, and you said these books are really about a series of ever increasingly fancy chairs. That's it. That's a postcard for April, everybody. So just get ready for that.
I just be fucking saying anything. I don't know why y'all put up with me.
A delight.
I don't know.
It's hilarious. This is one of my favorite things about podcasting is like somebody quoting me back to me and I laugh at my own joke because I don't remember it. And it's like, it genuinely feels fresh, you know? Because it's just nice. It's like, oh, I am really funny. Huh. How about that?
I absolutely forgot I said that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, now that you said it, I remember saying it, but I had absolutely forgotten about it. Well, what can you do, y'all? It's just... Well, all right.
All right, everybody. We love you very much. Until next time. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Capitalism is a cancer.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.